Hello, everyone. God bless each and every one of you. Today is the second day of September. It is Labor Day here in the United States of America. It is the final holiday of the 2019 summer. And man, I can remember Memorial Day. That is the first holiday of the 2019 summer. And it seems like from Memorial Day till now Labor Day, time has just zipped right on by. I mean, I cannot imagine how fast this summer is gone. I have a birthday coming up in, well, September the 15th in 2 weeks. And man, this year's just flown by. I cannot believe how fast it's flown by. But I want to do today's video on something that I in the past have been guilty of. And I see many other Christians falling into this trap, especially with their children. And that is listening to worldly music, listening to rock and roll, listening to rhythm and blues, listening to rap music, listening to some of this, really raunchy country music they got out there. You know all about the country music. There's a joke going around. Let me see if I can get this right. What do you get back if you play a country music record backwards? What do you get back if you play a country music record backwards? Well, you'll get your wife back, you'll get your dog back, and you'll get your house back. Because most country music always sings about losing one of the three or all three. I lost this, lost that. Anyways, that's an old joke. It's stupid, but I thought it would fit, today's lesson. Anyways, I want to talk about music and why we should not be listening to, the world music, secular music, rock and roll, whatever, and I've had problems with this throughout my life because I grew up in a family of all brothers, all boys, and they grew up in the 70s. I was real tiny, but I remember listening to their records, as they would play them. Back then they had 8-track tapes, and they would listen to, the Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, all of the big bands of that time, and I admit I liked it. And as I got older, I went into rock music. I actually played rock music in several bands. One band, which was my last band that I played in, worldly music, rock music, we did pretty good. We went up and down, played bars, clubs, nightclubs. We played parties. We actually, we weren't bad. So I've been in that scene, and I know how it can grab a hold of you. And as a parent, it's hard, to monitor everything a child, does. But this is one area you definitely need to monitor, because today's music, even the pop music, which used to be somewhat timid, used to sing about, high school and dances and just, falling in love, just regular pop music like in the 80s, pop music was more tame, I guess is the word I want to say. Nowadays, the pop music is more satanic than your basic satanic heavy metal band. I mean, you see a lot of these pop stars singing about selling their souls, singing about going to the dark side, singing about, living perverted, abominations, lifestyles, living perverted abomination lifestyles. I don't think that makes sense. Living perverted lifestyles. Let's just go with that. I mean, you see a lot of them in their music videos. They're wearing upside down crosses on their t-shirts as they're singing in their videos, or 666. They're doing the same thing, these pentagrams, same thing these satanic bands did and still do, for the most part. But you have to be careful, because that is of the devil. The Bible says in 1 John 2:15, says this: "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world." And this music is of the world. "If any man love the world, The love of the Father is not in him. Now, I said earlier that you can't love the world or live, for the world and live for Christ at the same time. You can't. You have to choose one or the other. This is the same thing. If you love the world, you do not have the love of Christ within you. You just don't. We go on to Romans chapter 12, verse 2, and be not conformed to this world. Again, here we see the same thing it said in 1 John, where in 1 John it says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. See, the world. We go to Romans 12, 2, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Now, last one is Ephesians chapter 5, verse 11. Don't read too much from Ephesians. Very good book. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. Now, I find that one very, very telling. Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness. And that is exactly what this secular music, this worldly music is all about. I mean, you look at the progression of rock and roll. Let's just focus on that, because that's one that I know better than any of them, because I used to play it. Let's look at the progression of that through its inception to today. You had Elvis Presley, you had Little Richard, you had Jerry Lee Lewis. Compared to today, very tame, very, very tame. Remember Elvis? They called Elvis the pelvis. When he was shaking his hips, that was way too provocative. They had to film him from about the belly button up. They wouldn't even film him from the belly button or the waist down, because he would gyrate and jiggle and wiggle and this and that. And they thought that was just absolutely abominable. Think how far we've come to now. We have MTV. There are music awards where they have, people simulating sex acts right on stage. And this is right on regular television. You have them coming out, basically having satanic worship sessions right on stage with the upside down crosses, the fire, the flame, wearing devil horns. I mean, this is all on TV, right? You don't have to pay some subscription. I mean, it's cable, but it's not like some, R-rated or X-rated channel or whatever. It's just MTV. And you've went from Elvis to pelvis to having simulated sex acts, homosexual sex acts on stage, and satanic rituals. That's the word I'm looking for. Rituals on stage in these music video shows. And then you go from that, from Elvis and Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard and Buddy Holly and Richie Valens, the Big Bopper. You go from them and you head into the 60s. Then you start really getting into the debauchery, into the just vileness. You had the free love, the drugs, the whole hippie movement where they were, having sex every which way, but loose. They were smoking every kind of drug that was ever put on this earth, and some that they would concoct and make. You go from that, and that flowed into the 70s, where cocaine starts coming into the scene, and the drugs really start becoming prevalent in the music industry and the music in general, and that flows into the 80s, and then into the 90s, and then you got the more designer drugs into the 2000s. Now we're going full circle. We're back into the heroin, which started back in the early 70s, when you lost a lot of these rock and rollers like Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison and all these guys and girls getting into heroin and dying left and right. Keith Moon, the list goes on and on and on. And this all comes from worldly music, from living that lifestyle. And you must separate that in your house and in your life. You cannot have that being a part of your life. I have been guilty of that myself. I'm not sitting here trying to act holier than thou, or I'm trying to thumb my nose down at you, because I'm just as guilty of it at times through. where I'll catch myself listening to some. So I like blues. I like rhythm and blues. It's my favorite style to play on the guitar. And I like playing a lot of blues runs, blues leads on the guitar. And I still sometimes catch myself going back and listening to some, blues music, which, it's not really dirty per se, but it's not glorifying God. And that's the ticket, okay? It may not seem bad, but if it's not glorifying God, then what is it glorifying? If it ain't glorifying the Lord, then it has to be glorifying something, and that's the world. And that's why it tells us, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. So, as I end this video, I want to tell each and every one of you, be careful what you bring into your house, what you listen to in your car. Be careful. Even, listen, even some of these sport talk radio programs. Now, this might even, kind of blow your mind. Or even some of that I've listened to, they curse. They use filthy language, and we're talking about sports. I've been in the car and had sports radio on different stations I get, and I have to turn it because they start cursing. And they're talking about baseball or football or basketball or not even, everything is just saturated with perversion and vileness and worldliness. You just got to watch it because the devil will trip you so easily. He will trip you up. He'll make you think something's okay. You'll start making excuses for it. Oh, it ain't that bad. They're not talking about that, but it is. If it's not glorifying God, then it's got to be glorifying the world. So I'm going to leave you with that. Pay attention to what your children are listening to. Pay attention to what they're watching. Especially these cartoons these days. You would be shocked to know that they have cartoons now promoting alternative lifestyles. I'm not even kidding with you. I can't even come out and say it on here because this would probably get removed for hate speech. That's how bad it's gotten. But you know what I mean when I say alternative lifestyles. They have cartoons now that promote that. It's just normal. It's okay. So you got to watch what your kids are watching, please. And watch what you bring in your house and what you have in your vehicle. Take care. God bless each and every one of you. I know I went a little long-winded today, but it's a topic I'm very well versed in because I spent a portion of my life living that lifestyle in that world in music and bands. So I know very well how you can get trapped. Take care. Have a wonderful Labor Day. Be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.